All right, I just hit the record button. And now I'm going to share our screen. And here we go. There we go. Here we are, speaking for success. This is what we're going to be talking about this morning, how to grow your business as a speaker. So I know that most of you do not want to become a professional speaker, but I also know that speaking is a really excellent way to market yourself as a businesswoman, whether you own your business or whether you own your book of business, as some of you do. Speaking is a very affordable and very effective way to position you as an expert, to position you as a leader, to position you as an authority in your field. And it's something that I know works if you like to speak. So you'll see that all of our classmates are not here today live because not everybody wants to be a speaker. I mean, it takes a little bit of confidence to put yourself out there, to do what I'm doing today. Talk about stretching today. You know, I'm really good and have a lot of experience in speaking in front of an audience like I did yesterday, or speaking on a teleclass like I've been doing for 10 years. This is new, and it's something that it's not necessarily comfortable to have somebody watch you doing and learning. So it does take somebody who's comfortable being very transparent and being very open. And I understand that's not everybody. So not to worry if you don't feel like you want to be speaking in front of an audience. You don't have to do it. It's one way, one very simple, practical, affordable, easy way to leverage yourself as a leader, as an authority, as an expert in your field. Now, you don't need to necessarily speak as I do. I'll give you some options in a few moments about different ways that you can speak if you are uncomfortable maybe being on stage with a microphone. But what can speaking do for you? Speaking can immediately and very quickly grow your contact list. And if you are sensible and practical about the way that you schedule yourself for speaking, it can very quickly grow your contact lists full of your ideal potential clients. That's what we're doing this for, okay? Speaking can help you get new business of people who otherwise never would have heard of you or known about you. Speaking can help you gain media attention. I'll tell you that, how exactly you can use a speaking engagement to gain media attention. Can help you sell a product, whether it's a book like Debbie Whittam has, or whether it's a service like me, public relations or consulting, or a class like this. Speaking, guess what? Doesn't have to necessarily grow your business. You can make a difference in the world, or you can inspire others, you can motivate, and you can elevate others by sharing your story. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about leveraging yourself. It doesn't have to be about selling. It doesn't have to be about growing your list if you don't want it to be. Using your gifts, your talents, and your experiences can make a difference in the world. So let me look ahead here. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. So the idea of speaking as a marketing tool can be a little intimidating because, and I'd like to invite you all to take a very deep breath right now, because I'm going to be giving you about 15 to 20 years worth of my accumulated knowledge and experience in speaking, and you're about to hear it in less than 1 hour. That's a lot of information. So do not think that you have to implement everything that I've done in the past 18 years this week or this month or even this year, all right? You don't have to do that. You're not the Energizer Bunny, as people accuse me of doing, and you don't have to be. People accuse me of that all the time. So the first thing that I want you to do is think about, when do you want to speak? Today, we're going to talk about creating a signature speech for you and for your business or for you. And when would you like to begin presenting it? If you would type into the chat box, and I'll come back to that. I'd like to know when you'd like to begin speaking for the first time. Some of you already have speaking engagements booked and you're here today because you want to learn how to implement them smoothly. But if you've never spoken or if you haven't done it consistently, when would you like to get that ready? It doesn't have to be May 1st. It can be September, it can be January, it can be July, whatever feels comfortable to you. But I found that setting your intention of being a speaker at a certain time is a really good way to take the first step. Now, the next thing, and this is something that requires a little bit of thought, there are a lot of places that you can speak. You can speak for yourself. Next week's class is 100% about hosting your own events, whether you're the speaker or whether you have another speaker. So I'm gonna give you all of that content next week. But let's right now think about, if I were going to be presenting my topic, who wants to hear it? And who is my ideal client? Because here's the thing, ladies, you can speak tomorrow at a Rotary Club. There are 160 some Rotary Clubs in Pittsburgh, and they need a speaker every single week. Now, there's women's garden clubs. They call me every day, especially at this time of year, they're looking for speakers. But if the Women's Garden Club or the Rotary Club is not your ideal audience, then it's not necessarily a good use of your time. It is a good use of your time if you need practice, because they're kind and loving audiences. So it's a good use of your time if you need practice. But let's be strategic here. Who is it that you should be presenting to? Is it a professional organization like Pittsburgh Professional Women? Is it an association? You know, I had a client about 8 years ago who wrote a book, a transformational book about mind, body, spirit. And it was about how she navigated cancer using the mind, body, and spirit. Well, we found an association of oncology nurses. The national, I think, I'm just from memory, the National Association of Oncology Nurses of America, something like that. They have chapters all over the United States. That was an excellent audience for her to get in front of, because she wanted to not necessarily get rich by this message, but to tell them that it doesn't have to be, cancer treatment isn't just chemotherapy. There's the whole mind, body, spirit part that goes along with that. Now, she did make a lot of money with the Oncology Nurses Association, because they pay a lot of dues every month to be a part of that or every year to be a part of that group, and they pay money to their speakers. And so she was she was in Maine, she was in Missouri, she went to San Diego, she was in Alaska. Pretty much when we got this booking for her with the oncology nurses and they liked her, we looked at the oncology nurses all over, and where do you want to go? And we called them and sent them letters and said, here's this, we sent a book. And so associations can be great. There is an association for almost everything. Alumni associations, professional associations of realtors, accountants, architects, attorneys. It goes on and on and on. There's all kinds of associations. So community groups, that's sort of like I was mentioning to you, the women's garden clubs, or maybe I have an accountant that I work with. She grows almost all of her business in 2 ways. Well, 3 ways. Referrals, people who refer her is her best way. But her marketing is her email newsletter and her speaking topics that she gives to the community. And she loves working with nonprofits. Particularly, she likes working with little leagues. She likes working with those little league parents who have this little association community group, and they have paperwork that they need to file with the state, and they're all volunteers. That's her favorite client. And so she gives her presentations to little league or soccer moms or swimming moms. There's so many of them. Students, some of you can speak to students at universities or high schools, groups of your own peers. The general public, I have a number of clients that hosts events at the library. I have a psychic that I work with that does an event at the Bethel Park Library twice a month. Who else do I have that speaks to the general public? I have a chiropractor speaks to the general public. We sort of narrow down who we invite to that, but it's open to the public. And as I mentioned before with the associations, you can speak to specific professionals at their place of work. So teachers for an in-service, nurses for a continuing education group, or continuing ed meeting, psychologists, social workers. They will get together with people of their profession, and they have meetings, and they have conferences, and they have national conferences. So there's a lot of places why don't you think about 1, 2, or 3 at the most that you want to look more into? What kind of associations or community groups or students, colleges that you would like to look more into? And that goes on your to-do list about researching. And as a professional speaker, this is something I do every day. Last night when I got home, when I shut down everything last night after I took my webinar class, I had a couple of tabs open on my computer, and I wanted to shut every tab on my computer so that I had all of my power for this webinar. And I had 3 women's groups that I had found out about, New Hampshire, Boston, and then one in Tennessee, that have conferences every fall. And what I do is when I find out about them, usually I read about them or hear about them from somebody else, I get their information and send them a speaker packet or call them on the phone and ask them, how do you choose your speakers and how do I apply to be a speaker? Because large groups of professional women at conferences are my ideal audience. Now, where should you? So let me go backwards for a moment. When will you begin? Who will you speak to? And where will you speak? So since you are not starting a business as a professional speaker, you want to be who you are. Traveling maybe to Tennessee or to Boston is not going to be what you want to do. You probably want to speak where you do business, really close to where you do business. So do you want to speak for another organization, or would it be easier for you to host your own events? What works better for you? Do you want to host an in-person event, or do you want to go to somebody's in-person event, or do you want to speak at someone's virtual events, a teleclass, a webinar, something like that? Now, if you're going to go to an event, a big event like a conference, they have a keynote speaker and they have a breakout speaker. You probably know what those are because I think that most of you have attended conferences, but the keynote speaker is the person who is hired to entertain and inspire. Typically, it's usually the lunchtime speaker or maybe the evening speaker. It's usually a big name. They're paid a lot of money. Typically, they're the big draw. People come to the conference because they get to see that person or hear that person. And typically a keynote person like a Susie Orman or a Steve Harvey or a Lisa Nichols, they will give the same talk to every single audience most of the time. Usually they might have 2 or 3 talks, but they typically give the same message over and over again, and they always give it in front of a new audience. That's a keynote. They're paid, it's entertaining, it's usually not educational, it's usually entertaining, maybe it's humorous, maybe it's inspirational, okay? Now a breakout is probably more like what some of you wanna do, and that would be a practical class, something that you're going to give them tips on, something that is going to help them be better in their life or their work after they have seen you speak. A breakout presentation can range between 20 minutes to 45 minutes. That's typically the way those run. And a breakout session, which is what I do a lot of, I do keynote and breakout, but I love the I like both of them. I really like the practical strategy stuff like this. So a breakout session for me, I have spoken for 30 people typically at a conference, and sometimes an average 100 to 200. The biggest breakout I ever did was for 800 at a conference. That's a really, really high number for a breakout. Typically, it's between 30 and 100 people at breakout session, and it's usually about 45 minutes, okay? So do you want to speak for small groups? So listen, you speaking to 3 people is you speaking. It doesn't have to be 800 people or 300 people or even 30 people. One of my favorite speaking engagements that I do is my Leadership Academy for Women, and typically we have 12 sitting around a round table, and I'm a facilitator / speaker, and it's very rewarding. So what would you like? What would be ideal to you? What resonates with you? And do you want to speak publicly at a library, or do you want to speak somewhere that's not open to the public? Maybe it's only open to attorneys. So where should you speak? These are important questions that you want to ask yourself. Another very important question that you want to ask is, what are you going to talk about? Okay, so here's a mistake that I made in my business early on. When my first book came out, I wish I'd known that, Secrets to Success in Business. When that book came out in 2009, I hit the ground speaking, and I spoke to every group that would have me. I learned so much. And so a lot of times the conversation would go like this. Beth, could you come and speak to our group? And I had this, they were nervous to ask me and I was nervous that they asked. It was hilarious, and the conversation would usually go like, of course, let me check the date on my calendar and if I'm available, and yes, I'd love to speak. Tell me about your organization and what would they like to hear about was my question. And their answer was, well, whatever you want to tell us. And my question back to them would be, well, what do you think they would want to learn, right? So I don't do that anymore. And you should not do that either, because what happened was I wound up creating a lot of talks that I gave one time. And I had my book with me, but it wasn't strategic. And there was one pivotal time that I remember I was down at the waterfront, a really large networking group called Building Bridges of Pittsburgh, I think, something like that. A lot of people, more than 100 people came to hear me speak. And I gave a great talk. But I didn't even ask for them to join my mailing lists. What I did was I put my whole heart into giving them a great talk. And I forgot the reason I was there. So I don't want you to do that. So here's how it goes now when somebody calls me. This is how it really needs to be for you, because you're doing this to market yourself. So you can't be constantly creating a new talk. You need to have 1 or 2 talks, presentations that you give. And so when somebody calls and says, I need a presenter, can you do this? Here are the 2 topics that I have to speak on. And, tell me about your audience is what I usually say first. So tell me about your audience. They tell me about their audience. Sometimes, ladies, it's not a good fit. I'm a professional speaker though, so I'll figure out a way to make it fit, but sometimes it's not going to be a good fit for you. So if it's not a good fit for you, you can say, I don't think that I appreciate you asking, but I don't think this audience would really gain from what I have to talk about. I do have someone I can recommend to you. You can recommend somebody from your success circle, somebody from your mastermind group, or somebody from your office even, if it's not right for you, particularly if they're not paying, okay? You can recommend somebody else. But if the audience sounds like your ideal target market, then what you can say is, from what you're telling me, I think my talk called this would be ideal. So in my case, I would say, I think that maybe unwrapping your leadership gifts would sound like a really good fit for this audience. And usually their response is, oh, tell me about that. I want to hear more about that. Or they might say, oh, we just had a leadership speaker 2 months ago. What else do you have? So then I might say, well, how about getting paid what you're worth? Or how about negotiation skills? These are other topics that I give. So that's how that conversation goes. You decide ahead of time what you're going to talk about. Now, for me, I'm going to get a little advanced right now. Once you've been speaking for a year and it's working for you, then what I do is I market you by saying, okay, what's a new talk that you're going to give next year? So we have a reason to reach out to everybody that you've ever spoken for and say, I have a new topic. But we're not going to think about that now. But I want to give you a little nugget that says you're not going to be talking about these same 2 topics for the next 10 years. We're going to change it up a little bit just to get started. All right. So what are you going to talk about? In your business, what solutions do you provide? Think about that. If you want to, you can type it into the chat menu or write it in your Success Circle Padfolio. What solutions do you provide? Think about your favorite clients, the ones that love working with you, the ones that pay you well and pay you on time without complaining, the ones that refer other clients, ideal clients to you. What solutions do you provide to them? What have you done for that person or that company that has made them such a raving fan of you? That's your solutions. Remember we talked when we were in together, we talked about services versus solutions. We talk about solutions and how we solve people's problems when we give our presentations. What's your client's biggest problem? Now, I know that there are some of you that have a lot of problems that you solve. So here's the third question I have for you. What area of your business do you want to grow this year? If you're somebody that can work with a lot of different clients, which client do you like to work with? Which client would you love to have more of? Then talk about their problems. So I would love it if you type in, what are you going to talk about this year or in your next talk? All right, let me just take a sip here so I can give you a chance to think a moment. I have to tell you too, JJ Kitty is just, He's just perplexed about what might be going on here. You know, animals can sense the energy in the room. And he's behind the computer just pacing back and forth. And I keep wondering if his tail is going to like flip over in front of the camera. So you may see JJ. He might make a cameo appearance here, but he's very curious about what's going on this morning. So, all right, you've decided your audience. You've decided your who you want to talk to. You've decided that you want to talk for other people or yourself. And you've decided the solution that you provide. Now what you want to do is create a hot title. And so sometimes, and as an aside, this works for your writing as well as your speaking. You know how many email newsletters you get, how many emails you get in your email inbox a day? I read last night that the average adult gets 141 emails a day. So when you see an email that comes through and it says, May newsletter, right? That's not a hot topic title. That's a title for the person who wrote it. What's the content? What solution, if you read that newsletter, if you come and attend this presentation, what is the solution that the person is going to get? And so I did an event several years ago called Golf for Business. And I knew I had a great speaker that was coming to Pittsburgh Professional Women that was going to teach us golf, particularly for women who had never golfed before but wanted to be able to talk about it and wanted to be able to participate in a golf outing with their companies. And I knew that I wanted to do this, and I did it in June, and I planned it in January, and I just wrote on my calendar, Golf for Business, but I didn't like it. And it took me a really long time to come up with a juicy title for that. And we came up with, in about April, Breaking Through the Grass Ceiling. Now, what I didn't call it that, I called it the Professional Women's Guide to Golf, Breaking Through the Grass Ceiling. Because if I say Breaking Through the Grass Ceiling, nobody knows it's about golf. So I had the Professional Women's Guide to Golf, Breaking Through the Grass Ceiling. I had over 100 people register for that workshop. And I know it was because of the hot title. Okay. Now, just last year in November of 2015, I did the same thing. January, I was thinking, what topics do I want to teach in 2015? And I knew I wanted to do a talk on Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a really underused social media tool, and I wanted to spread the word about it. So I put on my calendar, Learn Pinterest for Business. And it took me a couple months in the back of my head. What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? And I don't think I came up with Pinteresting. I think I saw somebody, I think I saw Pinteresting somewhere else on Pinterest. And I was like, there it is. Isn't that Pinteresting? How to leverage Pinterest for business. Huge turnout I had for that. We were sold out with a waiting list on that one. So I know that having a hot topic title really, really works. And I would like to know what some of your topics are. So at the end of today, if you have some topics to give me, or if you, not today, when you come on early next week, if you have some topics to give me, I will help you to polish them. Another thing you can do is, if you have a topic title, put it in to our Facebook group, our private Facebook group, and we can, all of us, give you feedback on what would be a great title. I haven't come up with all my great titles. A lot of times I've asked my viewers and readers and listeners and friends and family to help me. Okay, if we were in person today, let me check our time. If we were having an in-person meeting today, I would give you a break right now because I have just given you a lot of information, and it's a lot to learn. So just take a little sip, take a deep breath, run to the ladies' room if you have to. You're not on camera, so we can take a break if you need to. I'm going to move into how to create a signature speech. So we start with the title. Now, something that I've done too, ladies, is sometimes I haven't had a great title. I've had a topic. Then I write it out and I decide what I'm going to give, and then my title comes to me as I'm writing it out. But what I'm going to do now is really gold for you. This will save you years and years on using speaking to grow your business. And honestly, I don't know that I learned this anywhere. I know I did not take a class on this. I think that I learned this through maybe my experience of website writing and my experience of doing client attraction for people. but I know that this really works for giving a concise speech. And that is, oh, I know where I learned this. When we do interviews, this is how we always begin an interview or a press release by starting with the problem. And that I learned how to do that in a press release, announcing the problem, and then I carried that over into my speaking. So when I arrange for you to do an interview on the radio or on TV, in our press release or in our talking points, we talk about the problem that you solve. So here's an example. I'm trying to make an example of somebody that is that's here live today, and I can't see you now because I have my screen up. So, okay, so one of us, Kim, does speech training people who have accents. Okay, so what would your problem be? The problem would be is people who don't, who make common speaking mistakes. So we'll talk about people who, not just people who have accents, but everybody, because we want to make this appealing to everybody. If you're not speaking clearly, how that can hurt you in your business or how that can keep you from being promoted. All right. And so in evidence for that, we're not going to have necessarily a university study or a National Institute of Health study, okay? But for those of you that are doing really hard statistics, so let's say those of you in real estate are saying that people are moving into shared spaces more than ever before, or people are moving out of their home-based businesses into a regular office in droves. You're going to want to give some kind of an evidence, some kind of a statistic, some kind of a research from a credible organization that's going to do that. If you're speaking about health or medicine or anything like that, you need to give some evidence. Now, if you're like me and you're speaking about feelings and thoughts, one time I gave a speech on LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn for your business or how to use Pinterest to grow your business. So I said, the problem today is you're overwhelmed with Pinterest. I don't need any evidence for that. You know you're overwhelmed. So you need evidence. So if everybody's shaking their head, you don't need to say, in fact, a statistic from whatever shows this. So there you go. Now let's say, here we go. I'm going to make one up on the spot. Let's say I'm going to give a talk on productivity. Yesterday, I read a statistic of an official study that said the average adult in America gets 141 emails a day. I'm going to give that evidence according to a blah, blah, blah study. Wherever I read it, I'll cite that. So we know we're overwhelmed with emails, and I also have a backup. So problem, evidence. That's what you do when you're creating your speech. You begin with the problem. You reinforce with the evidence. That's the first paragraph. The first 2 to 3 minutes of your speech is your problem and your evidence. The bulk of your speech, the next 15 to 35 minutes, are your solutions. So here's the problem. Here's some reinforcing evidence so that we know it's a problem. Somebody outside has validated that it's a problem. Now let me tell you how to fix it. Here are the solutions. So at the end of your speech is how to get more help. It's not a sales pitch. It can be something as simple as, if you'd like to get on my mailing list, I have Susie, my assistant, is passing this around, or come up to my computer, come and see me afterwards. My book is for sale. I have my team in the back to answer your questions about renting an office. More help, I'm having a webinar series that you can come and sign up for. That's how you give more help. So problem, evidence, solution, and more help. Now, the bulk where it says solution, if you have to give a 15-minute talk, you give 2 solutions or 2 strategies. If you have to give a 35-minute talk, maybe you give 4. So you can take your signature speech and you can stretch it from a 10-minute presentation all the way up to a 2 or 3 hour presentation, depending on what you want to do. Most of you want to give a 20-minute or a 40-minute presentation, and that's really what you want to do. If somebody wants you to give more time than that, we can talk about that separately, but how you can fill up those spaces is by sharing examples and doing exercises. So say, for example, this was a 2-hour workshop today. What I would do is I would say, now we're going to take 15 minutes and you're going to break into groups, and you're going to come up with hot topic titles, and you're going to come up with problem, evidence, and solution. Or I would have taken a break at both of those times. And that's how you can stretch a talk or shrink it down. You don't have to give more and more and more and more content. Give people time to do an exercise with their partner if you have more than 40 minutes. How are you guys doing? I can't see you, so I don't know if I'm overwhelming you. Take another deep breath. Here's another important point, and that is, how do you get booked as a speaker? So the very first thing that you want to do is let people know that you're speaking. Sometimes putting it on your website, or putting it on your LinkedIn profile, or putting it on your brochure, that's one simple way to get booked as a speaker, to just make the decision and tell people that you're doing it. I get speaking engagements. I call people, as I told you. What I do is I look for events where I'm speaking, and sometimes if I go to a website, for example, the Pennsylvania Governor's Conference for Women a couple of years ago, I was a speaker, and I think they sent an email newsletter that said, hey, we're having this conference, do you want to come? And in that was a link to their website where you could buy tickets, and on that website it said apply to be a speaker. And so I just went on that website and I filled out my information. I knew my title. I had a professional photo. I had a bio. That's the information that they want to do something at that level as a speaker. So I filled out an online application. Other ways that I've done it is I've called people on the phone to tell them, originally, I know that you have a Rotary group, or I know that you have a women's organization, and I'm offering a speaking presentation on this topic. I've done it through the mail, and I'll tell you, as in Pittsburgh Professional Women, I get probably, not a lot, maybe 2 times a month, I get an envelope in the mail with somebody mailing me their speaker content. And I like that. I like that option because, frankly, I don't get a lot of mail, and I like to see that they're very professional. I like to see their professional headshot. Sometimes they'll send me a book in the mail, and it gives a professional image. So sometimes sending a letter in the mail, dear Professional Women's Organization, my name is, and I am a local speaker, and I can help your organization with topics on, with a presentation on these topics. If you like more information, here's how you can reach me. So you can do a mailing. You can use LinkedIn. We don't want to be ever aggressively pitching ourselves. Hey, do you need a speaker? Hey, do you need a speaker? I don't like that. I don't like when people do it to me. But I noticed that you have an organization. Do they have meetings? Tell me more about that. So opening up a dialogue on LinkedIn and asking your colleagues for introductions to their own professional organizations, okay? One thing that I left off of here is getting speaking engagements from other speaking engagements. Once you are out speaking, that's what will happen most of the time. Just as in your business, people refer you. So when you are speaking at a community event, I just did the United Way Women's Conference maybe a month ago up in Lawrence County, and always when I'm speaking in front of a big audience like that, somebody walks up to me and says, can you come and speak for my group? Okay, so when you speak and people hear you, they want to bring you to their own company and organization. So what do you do next? Set your speaking goal. When do you want to give your first presentation? Very, very important. Remember why you're speaking. I'm doing this to grow my business. I'm doing this to leverage my company. So what happens is we tend to get so involved with the whole getting organized of being a speaker that we forget why we're doing it. So we want to be very intentional when you go out and give a presentation that, yes, your goal is to give them fantastic content and position you as an expert, position you as an authority, position you as a leader, and get business. I want you to be for profit and proud. You are here to make a profit in the world. You are not here to just serve with your energy and your content and your ideas and your nurturing. So that's really nice, but you are doing this to grow your business. And so Give a great presentation, but be intentional about it, okay? Now, there's a lot to do in getting yourself set up as a speaker, but I promise you, once you've spoken 3 or 4 times, you get a system, you get a strategy, you know what you're doing. I have a tote bag that is just for my speaking stuff. It has my handouts, my sign-up sheets. I use these. Here's my success circle. I'll hold this up for you. I love these plastic sort of see-through folders that I get at Staples for $2 or $3. And so because I'm a person who has a lot of projects, I use these. And I have my handouts. Since I only have a few talks that I give, my handouts are usually my articles or my tip sheets. So I know what my 3 talks, my signature 3 talks are. And I get my handouts printed sort of in bulk. And so I have my handouts always in one of these. So they're the cat and the kids and, you know, dust in the house and whatever stays off of it. These are always in my filing cabinets. I have my tote bag, which has, oh, do I have it here? Hold on one second. I'm going to get you my tote bag because I just spoke yesterday. So here, this is one of my tote bags. And I just had an event yesterday, so I haven't cleaned it out yet. So let me show you what's in here. So these are some of the handouts from yesterday, which I will either refile or recycle. This is always in my handout book. And these are the articles that I've written. And I keep them in so they stay nice and clean. I keep them in, this is I don't know if you can see it, but this is a very heavy folder, and it has envelopes, or excuse me, little pockets here that I can put my different articles in. I don't put all these articles out for every audience. When I get there or before I go, I know I put 2 out. So I usually put 2 articles that are ideal for that audience. So this is always in my tote bag. My brochures, okay? And I'm looking for something specific. Here's one of those. Here's the folder that had the handouts in it that I was using yesterday. There's something specific I'm looking for. Ah, here it is. Another thing, Staples is my favorite store. I keep this with me all the time. I hope you can see this really well, okay? This is just a little, sort of like a zippered, it's sort of like a zippered makeup bag. And what I have in here is, this is for my Mac computer. If I get somewhere and I'm going to be giving a presentation, sometimes they're not set up for Mac, so I carry an adapter. I paid $30 for this, but I carry it around with me all the time, and it's always in this bag, which is a see-through bag, so I know that I have what's in there. My business cards are in there, and then I have markers. This is a marker that I use to sign my book with. It also is a good marker to use for name tags. And then I have pens, because sometimes, you know, I'm a speaker who gives content, and sometimes people come and they're not prepared. So I always have, there's a lot of pens in here. And then this I've had for a long time. This is a little cheat sheet that has all of my passwords that I need if I need to sign into the Google Drive or on somebody else's computer or my own. If my saved passwords don't work, I have a Square account. Square is how I take credit cards. So if you were selling something like a book or a product, this is my little Square adapter that goes into my phone. So my Square password is on there. And these are just, that's about it. These are the things that I need to have with me. And it's really good to have them here in this all the time. So if I look competent when somebody says, oh, this isn't working, we can't get this to work. That's the worst thing about speaking, I think, is when the technology doesn't work. And so if I can say, you know what, I have an adapter for that. Let me just go, and I don't have to be scattered or frantic or looking for it or drive home to pick it up because I forgot it. It's always in my tote bag. And so the reason I tell you this is because once you've done this a few times, you get a system together, just like I have. So set your speaking goal. Remember why you're doing it. All of the things that I gave you today, put them onto your calendar so you don't feel overwhelmed. Say, okay, the first thing I need to do is make a decision. Next, I need to, have my assistant or do some research. Put that on your calendar so it's not up here making you overwhelmed. And take advantage of the Women in Success Circle so that you can help each other and support each other. Now, next week's class, we're going to talk about those of you who want to plan events and host events of your own. Here's the thing, it doesn't have to be you as a speaker. You can plan an event, an awards event, a recognition event, a panel event. It doesn't have to be necessarily you being a speaker. You can plan an event where somebody else is a speaker. Hosting events in our community is a great way to grow your business. So let me stop sharing. There we go. And come back to you all. There we go. All right, let's take a look. Now, for those of you, we have 9 of you viewing and several of you on the phone. I am going to unmute everybody. So let's see what happens here when I do that. So that you can, we have 15 minutes and we can, see if I can unmute. Let's see how I do that. So now we have a whole lot of people with messages, and I'll come back and read those in a second. See how I unmute everybody. Here we go. There's a more button here. Allow viewer chat. Thanks for watching me figure this out. Okay, I am Sorry guys, I'm trying to find the button to unmute you. Maybe it disappears whenever we're doing recording. I'm not sure. So I cannot find that. So here's what I'm going to do. We'll get this worked out by next week, I promise you. And I think if I hit that, I'll mute myself. So let me go through here and answer your questions, and maybe I'll come across that. All right. So Deborah Whittam says, soon, my May 20th event will be a good beginning. And Deborah, make sure that you put in the Success Circle group the invitation to your May 20th event. Deborah's having her book launch. Okay, Pam is ready for right now. Okay, 1 month, great, that's good. Michelle is ready to, in the next 60 days. Michelle, you speak on, I'm going to look down here and see, Michelle, what you speak on, because I know we talk to companies about anxiety and post-traumatic stress syndrome. All right, Deborah Whittam can talk about relief from anxiety, solutions on how to be okay, addiction in the family, anxiety and how it impacts functioning in the workplace. Those are great titles. Let's make some of them hot titles. So solutions to how to be okay is a little bit vague. Let's pick one of the problems and talk about how to recover from blank, or solutions on how to stop struggling with whatever that is, okay? Addiction in the family, another great topic, and there's probably a lot of things that you can talk about in addiction in the family, so pick 1 or 3 and think about what would be on the evening news in that topic, and that's where your topic comes. All right, Michelle Steimer is thinking of speaking on veteran culture, how to integrate veterans in the workplace. I gotta tell you, Michelle, that's a hot topic, okay? Even if you just say how to integrate veterans into the workplace, think about that right now. This is a perfect example. The problem today is veterans return from service unable to effectively integrate into today's society. What can we do about that? I can see you talking on all kinds of interview shows about that. And across all borders, everybody wants to fix that problem. So, all right, another totally opposite topic, and Michelle, you're a great example of having that phone call of somebody calling in and saying, here's my audience. So obviously suicide prevention and workplace violence is not, these are 3 very different topics. So when somebody calls you for a speaker, you're going to say, tell me about your audience. and they tell you about their audience. And so then you're going to bring up one of the topics that might be great for continuing ed for social workers is suicide prevention in the workplace. Here's what that looks like. So you don't see a lot of that talk going on, Michelle. So you don't have a lot of competition in the topics that you're giving. And you'll be one of those people that will speak at one organization or association and get recommended to another and another. Okay. So T. Straley says, what solutions can I give to people? You're going to have to give me more information than that. Keep typing. Let's see here. Pam, a foreign-born speaker seeking greater speech clarity. For the American-born speaker with the desire to speak standard English. So get out, lose the Pittsburghese, obviously is a great topic. Uh-oh, I just got a little notice that said my connection's unstable, so I hope that's okay with you. I hope you're not having too much shaking. Pam, using the getting rid of your Pittsburghese is a great talk that you could give to Rotary clubs and give to in library associations and just about any community group, okay? You wanna have some, first of all, you just wanna get out and speak about 10 times to anybody, just to practice it, all right? Getting rid of Pittsburghese, what can we say about getting rid of? How about, what would be a Pittsburgh word for you know, get rid of Jens's Pittsburghese, something like that, right? You say something like that. That would be a fun talk, just a 20-minute talk where you give a couple of tips. And either when you introduce yourself or when you have somebody introduce you, then you talk about what it is that you do. So Pam, it helps executives speak more clearly so that they can get promotions, so that they can grow their businesses, whatever it is that you do, one sentence. Pam helps executives with accents to become more credible in their fields. Today, she's gonna share with us something fun, and that is how to change your Pittsburghese, and it will be fun. And then you can get out in the audience, you can say, so what's your favorite Pittsburghese? You know, Jens guys, whatever. All right, so they say that. Let's see here. Counseling, crisis intervention, steps to achieve goal. We still have to come up a little bit more. I see there's more messages coming out, so we'll talk about that. Let's see here. I've been toying with the idea of consulting for social work, nursing homes, and dealing with mental health dementia. So there you go. Nursing homes and mental health dementia patients. If you look on my Pinterest page, I have a Pinterest page and I just put something there under relationships. And under relationships, there were 2 things about mental health and dementia. There are 2 articles that are great and they would be fantastic presentations. So in the case, for some of you, you don't have to write your own content. Some of you, there's content already out there written that you can deliver. I do think you should add your own experiences to them, but sometimes you don't even need to write your own content, so take that. When do you decide, what Pam asks, when do you decide when to charge for speaking? And so that is sort of goes on the next step. It depends on what you're doing. So if your intention is to grow your contact lists and sell your product, typically that's a non-paid presentation. That's a community service presentation that you do as a way of advertising your business. So somebody who is paid to speak is a professional speaker or a consultant that is paid to speak. And so that's a personal decision. Is that part of your business, or are you using this for marketing? So today we're talking about using speaking engagements to grow your business. So typically that is not paid. Sometimes you can get an honorarium, and you can also make speaking, as I have, you can turn speaking into a way to grow your business. And if you want to, we can talk about that, you know, if you guys come early next time, as I want to be able to answer everybody's questions before 11. But you charge whenever it's a part of your business. So consultants charge and professional speakers charge. A marketing person, somebody who's coming to sell something to you, or it's a win-win situation. So I'm coming to you to give your audience great content, and I'm going to take all of their names and email addresses and contact them about how I can serve them in my business. That is your payment, okay? And even sometimes you pay for the opportunity to speak. That is a very common thing that happens. You pay somebody $250, $500, $1,200 to get up and speak in front of their audience because you know that you're going to get business. All righty, let's see here. Rid up, Pam says, rid up your Pittsburghese. I like that. Rid up your Pittsburghese. Reading up your speech. I like that. Struggling with where to start on speaking for business. I was thinking of reaching out to the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. You know, so let's see here. I don't think there are any other questions underneath of that. So where do you start? Does anybody else have any questions about where you start? And what I would like you to do now, and I'm gonna, while I'm addressing Michelle's comments, I would like for you to type into the chat, did you like this webinar? Do you want to do a webinar next week? Or would you like to switch to teleclass, so that I know? Because what I would like to do is I'd like to redo last week's class, and so that you can have that recording and even attend it live if you want to. So let me know what you liked. I want to know what you think of this. This it wasn't horrible for me. I want to have you have a great experience. I wasn't able to, when I had my screen up, I wasn't able to see your chats. So I felt a little bit off, like I wasn't connected to you. That's my only comment. I bet I can fix that. Also, it seems like when I hit the record button, I can't unmute you. And that's also an issue for me. So, but Kristen, hi Kristen, I didn't even know you were here. I'm glad you liked the webinar. Was it synced for you? Because Pam was saying that my mouth was kind of moving and the words were coming later. So let me know if it was synced for you. Now, and I'll go back as the rest of you are typing this in. I'm struggling with where to start in speaking for my business. Okay, in other words, who's my audience going to be, Michelle? And you know, this is one of the things that many of you bought a consultation session with me, and we'll be able to have these conversations in that, but something for you to think about. But here's what I want you to ask. First of all, Michelle, I'd like to ask you to take the word struggling out of your vocabulary, okay? I'm considering where to begin my speaking, okay? Instead of struggling, let's make it a little bit more positive. I don't want you struggling. I want this to be positive and fabulous for you. I'm wondering, where should I begin? That would be good. So my question for you then, Michelle, if you want to use the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, would be to call the executive director or the education chair. These are the presentations that I have to offer. Do you think this is a good fit? Would you like to do something together? What would be really nice for you, Michelle, is if the Washington County Chamber of Commerce co-presented an event with you. They hosted it. So they didn't charge you. They don't pay you. They don't charge you. But bonus, they invite everybody on their list. They have a huge list. Most chambers do, every business in the county, right? So that would be a good one for you if that is your ideal clients. It needs to be somebody who needs your solutions and will hire you for your solutions. That's who your audience should be for. Now, a practice audience, let's say it's not your ideal audience. It's okay if you practice on them, especially if you've never spoken before. All righty, let's see here. Michelle says, thank you. I like the personal nature of the webinar. Good. Very much. You gave the information I needed to. Oh, good. I'm glad, Debbie. I can't wait to see what you started off. Is there a way we can get a copy of the slides? Yes, I can give you a copy of the slides, and I'll put that in our email. Whenever I do the email of here's the recording, I'll put a link where you can look at the slides too. Let's see here. I like the webinar format. Okay, good. Looks like everybody likes the format. Okay, yes. I like seeing everybody too, Debbie, so we'll figure out if we can do that. All right. Should we use, great question, Pam. Should we use PowerPoint with our talks? So here's my response to should we use PowerPoint. If you are good at using PowerPoint, then it's okay to use PowerPoint. Did you notice my slides had a big picture and a few words? If you like that, I think that pictures help people be engaged. I'm sure that as I'm talking, you're looking at these pictures behind me, right? We love pictures. That's why I put them there. This picture up here As you can see, that's Bedford Springs. Paul and I went there for our 10th anniversary. And I just love that picture. That's exactly what the hotel looked like when we pulled in on February 20th, 2 years ago. And it's a favorite memory of mine. And then I have my boys behind me and I have Paul over here. I don't know if you can see him really well next to my peace lily, but people like to be engaged with pictures. They like it. It helps them to identify with what you're saying. So you should use PowerPoint if you have a very good screen projector system. So for those of you who were at the retreat with me, we didn't use any PowerPoint slides. That was a retreat setting. But on Sunday morning, a handful of you stayed after, and we went into the back room, and we used the screen up there, and I had up on the screen Facebook, and we did a social media lesson. That screen is nice. It depends on your topic, and it depends on your audience. Okay, Pam? And so my most engaging presentations often have a handout. So in a face-to-face presentation, I'll give a handout. Here's the handout that I used yesterday. So it had like, this is the problem, and that's where they write their notes, okay? They love this. I also will do sometimes a handout like this, where I'll do a booklet, and then inside of the booklets, they'll be able to take notes. And then I like that because I do my yes, you can write a book and creating a publicity plan for your business. My handouts like that are like this because they need this later when they go into writing their book or writing their press releases. They go back to that handout where they wrote the notes down. So those handouts are more impactful than a slide because they have something to take with them, okay? So it depends on the audience. One thing, Pam, that I don't like is I don't like it whenever I go to see a presenter and they're fussing with their slides and things aren't working and the technology isn't working. So I would only use slides if you know that you're in a place that everything is going to work easily. And if you happen to go to a place, so for example, one of the things that I did when I had to use my little goodie bag, I was at Farmers Insurance, had a women's conference, a really big women's conference up in Cranberry. I don't know when it was. I think it was in the fall. I think it was last October. And I use Google Drive. I don't use PowerPoint because I have a Mac computer. I use Google Drive. And Farmers Corporate has Google blocked from their internet because they have everybody's insurance information and payment information, and it's a very secure place to be internet-wise. So I couldn't access the Google Drive on their computer. So when I walked in, they had their computer set up on the screen and we couldn't get my slides. But you know what? I had my Mac computer in my bag. I had my adapter, really lickety-split. I used my internet on my cell phone and I was up in 5 minutes. So if you know that you can handle technology issues, then go ahead and use a PowerPoint. Don't put a lot of writing on it. If you've been to people giving presentations, they have a lot of writing. We all know that we hate that. So if you know there's no technology issues, then go ahead and do it. If you think there's going to be technology issues, go with a handout, okay? Long answer to that question. So we're a couple minutes over. I want to thank you very much for spending your Friday morning with me. And we'll go ahead and do the webinar next week too. And I'm going to reschedule the webinar from last week. So you'll get an invitation on that. If you can't come, I'm going to check my calendar as soon as we hang up. If you can't come to that, don't worry about it. Nobody has to be on that. I can record it and then send it out to you as a recording. You don't have to be there live. But if you want to come to that class again live, what did we talk about last week? It was the 5 systems that you need for your business. I know a lot of you are waiting for that recording. So I'll get that done as soon as possible and get that to you, and have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to you sending me an invitation to where you're speaking. All right, you guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.